Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Chaos Presents Wasted Potential. And today we are representing the Big G, the Giant Lizard, the Destroyer of Tokyo, Godzilla. And today with me again is our co-host, M.
Yay!
Well, I suppose we'll have to start this with a few background about the Big G, because surprisingly not a lot of people know about this guy. Or at least the proper one, anyway.
Yeah, we've got problems with his origin stories.
Mostly the three of them, really, that stand out right now.
Yeah, I mean, we have problems with him, but he's one of the more simple characters to... His origin story is pretty damn simple.
Now, before we get farther into that, there is something I should say before we go in there. Godzilla was originally a representation of the dangers of nuclear weapons. And
It's almost like Japan had a terrible run-in with nuclear weapons.
yeah, and that is nuclear weapons are a horrible thing to unleash upon anyone or anything.
The sheer idea of mutual destruction is just, in my opinion, one of the dumbest things we've ever came up with in terms of a species.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue that one, but the point is that we're not gonna get into that because that's
To quote
just...
another movie, the only winning move is not to play.
Yeah, but basically, Godzilla is Japan's warning against doing this again, and
Very poignant warning, if you ask me, when done correctly.
yeah, because Godzilla is highly radioactive. And just by him walking through a city street leaves that place barren and unlivable for like at least weeks on end.
He's essentially a walking Chernobyl incident.
Yes.
They
And
still haven't cleaned up Chernobyl.
while it may sound
Not-
exciting for what we'll be talking about, please bear in mind it's just a movie that we're talking about that point in. We're not actually wishing this to be done to anyone or anything.
Although Karma seems to be interested in it.
Hi, girl. Do you like Godzilla? Yes, you do. But moving on, originally, as M pointed out, this Godzilla was first introduced after the only nuclear bombing of Japan.
Let's keep it that way.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he was some say he was created, some say awoken. It's kind of a little bit of a mixed bag on that one, depending upon which area you go by.
Yeah.
But essentially, what starting point was the nuclear bomb, and up comes this giant radioactive lizard, and it just starts storming through Tokyo like it owns the place. Because technically, at that point, it did. Because
Well, look, it's Godzilla noses Tokyo the same way you would nose an anthill.
yeah, we're not exactly high up on his notice list unless we find a weapon that actually hurts him.
And then he does what anyone would do when you hurt them.
Fight back.
Yep.
And unfortunately for us, he's got the better weapons on that end.
Yeah, if your kid gets stung by a bee and you know there's a beehive nearby, you're going to take insecticide to it. If you sting Godzilla, he's going to turn around and fire a nuclear weapon out of his mouth.
Yeah, and that is actually, if you ever watch the one guy's show, I can't remember what hell it was now.
And we've mentioned this in the Spider-Man, Science with Kelsey or something like that?
Yes, something like
Kevin. Science with Kevin.
And he explains why even the radioactive breath is more dangerous than even I realized. And that's scary.
Yeah. Woo, boy. Just type into YouTube the dangers of Godzilla's radioactive breath, or how
you'll
radioactive Godzilla is.
Yeah. And that leads to a point we'll be getting to a little bit later on the show, but
Yeah.
But the primary premise of the history is that Godzilla is woken up and basically is a danger to almost everything else in his way, because you're not deterring Godzilla very easily.
The only thing that's really going to stop Godzilla from rampaging in a single direction is if he decides to go left or right.
Yeah. Godzilla faced off against a tornado. Godzilla won.
Now all I can think of is a really bad crossover of the movie Twister and Godzilla.
Think about Godzilla and the Wizard of Oz.
No, I'm just picturing him eating
Stop making it to Oz.
I'm just
Sorry,
picturing
folks.
him just walking through Twister and eating the Wicked Witch instead of getting crushed.
No. Godzilla lands on the Wicked Witch. It wasn't the house. Godzilla just stepped on her, kept going.
Goodbye, Munchkin Village.
Goodbye, Munchkins.
No, it's a small price to pay.
You know, technically, I think the only thing that would survive would be the Tin Man.
Yeah, he would. Although he'd stay there rusted forever in a nuclear bombed out wasteland.
And suddenly not being able to move doesn't seem like such a bad thing.
But at the same time, he has nothing to stare at besides wasted and rotting trees.
Wow, that would be worse for him.
And no one will ever come to oil him because no one can get to him.
Yeah.
So he's even more screwed.
Yeah, that would suck for Oz, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, there's I'd say adding ninjas to anything generally makes things more awesome, but adding Godzilla to anything usually ends up making things worse for everyone else.
But somehow more entertaining for us.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it.
As long as we don't invent smell-o-vision or radiation vision, we're good.
Yeah. Now, folks, as I explained, Godzilla is highly radioactive when he stomps through Tokyo. Well, his primary stomping grounds, anyway.
I mean, he goes other places. I mean, Godzilla's now not afraid to vacation elsewhere.
Now,
please tell me someone else pictured Godzilla wearing a straw hat, a flower ring necklace, and like a Hawaiian shirt, just showing up.
Out of that.
Showing up in the middle of like Hawaii and just like, hey, I'm more dangerous than all your volcanoes put together.
I actually think there's fan art of that image. I'll have to check now because I'm curious, because that would be an awesome
I hope someone gave him Godzilla sunglasses too.
Right on top of that hat.
Yeah. And like a little smudge of like sunscreen on his nose.
Just going around the muzzle.
Yeah, around the muzzle.
Now I just picture him also just finding a giant coconut to use.
No, he wouldn't use a coconut. He'd use a smaller monster. Like the skull.
Can you do a skull? Hello.
He's got extra.
Then he got a mechanical head to replace it. So yeah. It's almost like they think adding a robot to something will make it cooler.
It usually does.
Usually.
But yeah.
Part of what makes a Godzilla movie is how the humans try and deal with Godzilla. Because they can't afford to have this creature continue existing. But at the same time in this universe, it's kind of one of the things that actually saves the planet. Oddly enough.
Godzilla is often described as one of Japan's heroes. He isn't. He's their greatest anti-villain.
Yeah, here's the thing, folks. Godzilla is very territorial. And at the size he's at, yeah, he pretty much thinks he owns the planet. And
or at least whatever hemisphere he's currently on.
Yeah, and there's not really a lot of things to do to argue with him about that one.
And if anything else mountain-sized starts moving, I'm gonna fight it.
Yeah, kind of. It's amazing how smart he is for how much he relies on instinct to run.
Yeah, but then again, there are some really smart animals you'd be surprised about.
Oh no, I'm not saying that, but it's just like you are so instinctual, but at the same time, you know, boxing and jiu-jitsu. I don't know who taught you because there's not like where
Godzilla decided to one day while stomping around Tokyo stop and watch a tape that was playing of someone teaching jiu-jitsu.
Now just picture him rampaging through the city, stopping, laying down, and just with like a truck of potato chips, tossing a bunch of bags at him at the same time. Just sitting there watching it.
Yeah.
And he's like on his side like this and just scratching and just watching and not even caring.
My other thought is some sort of monk taught him, trying to teach him to get his aggression out through martial arts. I mean, it's a good idea in theory, but...
Yeah, because he's just standing next to the mountain, looking at the monk on top of the mountain.
How did that monk not die of radiation? He has reached that level of martial arts that he can actually dodge radiation.
And he's got very good karma protection. Not my dog, actual karma.
Maybe your dog will protect him too. I mean, if a monk's that epic, I think I'd protect him too.
Maybe.
Wouldn't need it, but I would still. All right, we should probably explain what makes a Godzilla movie for both of us.
Now,
because that's one of our contingencies with a lot of other.
I will let you go first, and because
we have slightly different takes on Godzilla. This also comes from where we both started from. I started with the first Western-made Godzilla movie, the one that takes place in New York City. A lot of people hate this movie. I adore this movie. I think it's a really good B-movie, which is where I put Godzilla in the B-movie category. I don't think it's the best Godzilla movie, but there are way worse ones. But this one established to me what a Godzilla movie is basically about. Godzilla is the embodiment of, hey, we don't know anything about nuclear energy. Let's just randomly use it in places we really shouldn't. And the consequences of just firing nuclear weapons, doing nuclear tests, or just playing God with radiation. That's the most important thing to Godzilla to me. He is a whoopsie doopsie that's come back to bite us in the ass. That is it. That's his whole reason for stomping around. He doesn't notice us. We accidentally created him. Godzilla is basically a giant lizard version of Pandora's box. We unleashed him. We can't put him back in.
Now, to me, Godzilla also represents that. But the difference to me from the 1998 Godzilla, now renamed Zilla, because the Toho bought the rights to him.
Well, they always had a right to him.
No, actually, no.
Oh, okay.
They have bought the rights specifically for Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters, or not, I believe it was Destroy All Monsters, for that scene. They had to buy the rights to him.
Go figure.
Yeah. But Godzilla, while representing all of that, the difference between that one and what I saw is that Godzilla's a lot more unstoppable. He was marching through that city like he owned the place, because in the representation of the nuclear bombs, there wasn't a lot that could have been done to stop it, outside of being able to know that plane was coming, shooting it down, etc. But once that bomb was dropped, it's done. There's no going back on this.
That is one of the problems with the Western Godzilla movie, is when they did manage to sort of stop him, which, if that's your idea of Godzilla being purely unstoppable, then that's fair. But for me, I kind of like my movies to have an ending. And not to be forever having sequels.
Well, to be fair, the original movie Godzilla did have an ending.
Yeah, that is true.
They did destroy the monster, and it was supposed to end there, but the popularity built up around it.
Yeah, we'll get that to that when we get actual the eras. But
so it's not like the original movie didn't have a set ending.
Yeah, the series though.
Yeah, this is a long-standing series. In fact, this started before I was even born, back in '85.
Yeah.
In fact, as I was born, the first series was ending. Or the second was beginning, I forget which.
Around that era, yeah.
Yeah.
You were born in the transitional of the first eras.
Yeah. But in both cases, the rampaging lizard being generally unstoppable is the ground basis for it.
Yeah.
They had to force the people to think outside the box and reconsider what he is and what they've done.
Yeah. But for both of us, we both agree Godzilla is mankind's pretty much direct fault that made him. I'm not too fond of Godzilla being awoken.
Which, even if you're not, is still almost the same price as that, we woke this or we created this. Either way, this is our direct result fault.
Yeah, and Godzilla's rampage against us is not a rampage against us. It's a coincidence that we decided to put our cities where he wanted to walk.
Yeah, and generally try and use armaments that pissed him off, and then he went in that direction.
Yeah. The thing about Godzilla is when you actually do manage to wound him, you're not winning the fight, you're making an actual... You're starting a fight.
Yeah, I will probably take this moment to introduce the strength and weaknesses of Godzilla, as he primarily has them throughout most of his incarnations.
Yeah.
Number one, this thing is massive in size and strength. At his smallest, he was able to push down most skyscrapers, or knock them over, or destroy them.
If you're a physicist, the Godzilla's size will basically just make you go lots of nope, because that's not how physics work, or math works.
Godzilla technically should collapse in on himself. He can't support himself on a planet.
Yeah.
But I put that under disbelief, and I enjoy the movie too much to care.
Yeah.
Second thing is, he is tough as all hell. Most military rounds and missiles, he'll notice it, but he's not taking damage from it. You pretty much piss him off.
Most times, unless you fire anything besides the really big missiles, he isn't going to notice it unless you get him in the eyes.
Yeah, or the gills, but I'll get to that in a moment.
Or the snout.
Yeah.
You shove a missile up his nose, he's going to notice the smell.
That's more along one of the other weaknesses. I'll get to there in a moment.
Yeah.
But generally, he has a very tough hide. Most things are not getting through to that. You're either making something specific to penetrate the skin, or his scales are high, whatever you want to call it. Something designed to fight his radiation, or just generally something along those lines. Unless it's specifically tailored to fight him, he's not noticing.
Yeah.
And it's not like you can drop another nuclear bomb on him because he'll just eat the damn thing.
Lots of stories have done examples of how that's a bad idea. One of my favorite lines ever about that is, "It made Godzilla grow red. It's a shiny Godzilla!"
Yeah. The other problem is that he regenerates. So any damage he takes...
Yeah, he's not like Deadpool fast recovery. He still has to like lay down for a while, but...
Yeah, while you might be still recovering weeks on end, he's back next day.
Yeah, it takes him I think the longest they ever said in a movie was like a day or two he was wounded.
Yeah, granted how much that's recovering, the size of him, that's impressive.
Yeah.
One of the other things I think kind of makes Godzilla more dangerous is that he doesn't need to eat. He is sort of a... what's the term?
Perpetual motion machine?
Yeah, his radiation feeds him. He doesn't eat. He sleeps, but I think that's more a conservation of energy for him than it actually kind of like is for us. It's a different kind of scenario.
Well, he probably sleeps for some reason, the same reason we do, in order to recuperate our brain mass.
Yeah.
It also probably increases his healing factor, so maybe he does sleep more when he's injured.
To focus energy elsewhere. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But that also makes him more dangerous because while he does driven by instincts, it's also some instincts of a different nature.
Yeah, he doesn't think like a lot of animals do.
Now, that's not to say he doesn't need to technically eat. He does feed, but he feeds upon radiation. That's why in most movies when he attacks a sub or something like that, he's looking for an energy source.
Lots of subs are nuclear powered.
Right. So when he cracks it open, he doesn't care about the people inside. He doesn't even notice them. He's going for the nice, juicy radiation for himself.
Just sometimes these floating nuclear snacks have an odd flavoring to them.
Yeah. What is that red stuff in the sea now? God damn it, I hate this.
Yeah. It's all gross and sticky and tastes like... wasabi?
Now, one of his funnier strengths is his ability to tell physics to go fuck itself.
We've already mentioned just because of his massive size he shouldn't work, but there's one time he learned how to fly.
Now, if you're not sure what we mean by this, go look that up on YouTube, because I can't describe this properly for how silly and... I think that's the only word I could use for it, how silly this is.
I can. It's ridiculous, and I love it. Godzilla basically jumps in the air, curls his tail forward, shoots his atomic breath forward, and then flies backwards with the most hilarious song I've ever heard or seen. And all I can think of is, what the fuck?
And the music fits the scene so well.
Yeah, because it's... But the thing is, since they've tried to serious and modernize and gritify Godzilla, he hasn't done this since the 70s. But...
Yeah, but at the same time, I kind of half understand and half don't. But at the same time, it's like...
I can never forget this.
What?
I love...
I saw this, and
This needed to exist. It doesn't need to be repeated. Once was enough.
And I had I watched a show that and does it, but the thing that was said about it is like, well, at least Japan's creative, which you had to be creative to make something like that. Like, at his current size, Godzilla is over 100 meters tall and weighs 90,000 metric tons. I don't think that was not the incarnation that did that. He was a lot smaller and less weight, but still.
I want to see that version do it.
If he does,
I also
will stand up in the movie theater and clap my ass off.
Okay.
And I will probably get thrown out of the movie theater for that, but I just will not be able to not enjoy that.
Hopefully they throw you towards a hospital. This man has lost his ass. Well, he saw this scene. Doctor immediately does the exact same thing. We gotta stop showing people that.
But, yeah. Now let's get into the different eras of Godzilla, because it's almost like the Kamen Riders, but a little bit different at the same time.
The naming phrase actually, I think, was taken from Godzilla for Kamen Rider.
It's possible, because I know Godzilla started first.
Yeah, both of them started what was referred to as the Showa Age. And this is their original era. This is when a lot of the early stuff, and for Godzilla, it's where all the weird stuff happened.
Yeah, I will mention that Godzilla started in 1954, just to show you how old this legacy is.
Yeah, the Showa era is also where all my least favorite Godzilla movies came from.
Yeah, it's kind of that mixed bag where they're just kind of making a movie.
Now, despite the fact that that scene of Godzilla flying is one of my favorite things ever, it's actually from one of my most hated Godzilla movies ever. Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
Ghidorah, in case anybody's curious.
This is when Godzilla was at his most environmentally friendly.
Yeah, the show era tried to paint Godzilla more as the hero of the series,
Yeah.
which...
It started with his rampage, and for the first 3 or 4 movies, he is just this destructive force uncontained. Then he fights. Then he really got popular with kids and fighting other monsters. And
yeah, once they as it was in the show, once Ghidorah was introduced, then they started him as more the hero.
Yeah, which I'm sorry, but he's a walking radiation disaster. No matter how much good he does, he's going to do just as much bad to everything around him.
Well, let me specify. He's good at keeping the planet from being destroyed instantaneously by other monsters. But in the long run, there's also other problems with him.
Basically, he's like a virus that decides to fight your cancer, but it's still going to infect and take over you slowly.
And probably kill you.
Yeah. So... yeah, your cancer's gone, but your arm is now infected.
But the Showa era lasted from 1954 to 1975, ending with one of M's favorite creations from the show, but his worst design for him.
Yeah.
Mechagodzilla.
Dun, 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 dun. I do like the missile fingers.
Yeah, he had a lot of interesting designs. We'll get that in one of the later parts.
Yeah. After the Showa era, we had the Heisei era.
Did he say Heisei? It meant like emperor or something like that, if I remember right?
Oh, I can't remember. I do know a lot of anime, manga, and movies in the Japanese culture. Showa and Heisei.
This is actually the series that I started getting into, because this was started in 1984.
Yeah.
With the return of Godzilla, and ended in 1995 with Godzilla vs. Destroya.
Karma's excited for Godzilla vs. Destroya. She's got good taste.
Yeah, she does. Now, this was the more darker tone anti-hero Godzilla, or anti-villain, however you want to put it.
Yeah.
This was the one where Godzilla was more of a means to an end, but we still couldn't keep him on the planet without trying to figure out how to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Which I think is the better way to show him, because it also shows him sometimes being a gentler because of instincts and everything like that.
Yeah.
But he's not going to go saving any humans anytime soon.
No. If he does, it's by pure accident. You might still want to get some radiation taken care of after you.
And run as fast as you freaking can.
Yeah.
Because there is literally no way you should be anywhere near this thing.
Godzilla's one of the few times that I'm perfectly okay with people pushing each other and trampling each other to death, trying to get away from it.
Well, you're going to be dead pretty much either way if you still stay there, so...
Yeah. So if some little lady is blocking the road... great, little lady, you've killed us all.
Yeah. But it also took a semi-darker tone to it.
Yeah.
And was more of a social commentary on the Cold War, genetic engineering, Japan-U.S. relations, deforestation, and a variety of other tones. Yeah. But it still stayed true to
Godzilla's mouthpiece nature. He's always been a very good, like, while you say radiation created him, he's a great monster to say, stop fucking things up, humans.
Yeah. But it never felt like it was like a lot of the other movies where it's shoving it down your throat.
He rarely, there's only a handful of times where Godzilla's gone Captain Planet on us.
Yeah. Most of the time, it's mostly just a side effect from him fighting the other monster of some sort.
Yeah. It's usually much more subtle.
Oh my god, subtlety in a movie. What the hell?
Nowadays, that's an impossible word to find.
Yeah.
But after the Heisei, we didn't get the Neo Heisei like we do with Kamen Rider. We got the Millennium. And this is where I actually watched original Japanese Godzilla, and it's with one of my favorite movies, Godzilla 2000.
Right. That was actually one of my favorites, the revitalization of Godzilla as well.
Yeah,
And Godzilla 2000 is actually one of my favorite design suits that we'll get into later, but I just wanted to make that note.
yeah,
I
I
actually
agree
got
with
his
you.
little figure right here. Hello, Godzilla.
He is very excited about it. That was one of the best gifts I ever gave him.
And Godzilla 2000 kind of shows off both the hilarious absurdity of Godzilla and the serious destruction at the same time.
Which is the best way to write something like that. You've got to stop and realize this makes no logical sense.
At some point,
You get a point that this makes no logical sense, and then once you've done that, admit if it did exist, this is what would happen.
yeah, at some point you got to realize you're writing a story about a giant radioactive lizard that's stomping through your city. At some point, you got to realize how silly that sounds.
Yeah, but you're still allowed to point out that if it did, yeah, suspension of disbelief has to get some assistance now and then.
Now, following that, the United States got another crack at at Godzilla, what is known as the MonsterVerse. This was the Godzilla in 2014. Now, admittedly, when this was first being announced and I saw the design, I was not crazy for it. I probably still am not crazy for it. It's one of my middle ground Godzilla designs.
It's definitely better than the Showa era.
Well, given what the show I had, I really can't put that on the same ground. But
yeah, the Showa era was groundbreaking, but it has not. Some of its designs have not
hasn't
aged
well. But I can't argue that why it hasn't aged well either.
No.
This was also, I believe, the first fully CGI Godzilla. I could be wrong about that. If I am, I'm sorry, folks, but
I'm pretty sure in the Millennium era they did use some CGI for Godzilla, but I'm pretty sure it was still suits.
Yeah. But Godzilla 2014, MonsterVerse Godzilla, fully CGI. And
now,
once I saw this in action, I was more sold on the more reptilian look.
Yeah,
movement.
it's. I'll say this thing about Legendary's Godzilla. The Legendary is the company that made the MonsterVerse Godzilla. Mm-hmm. It looks terrible standing still, but when it's actually in motion, you get what they're